This conference will now be recorded.
Cool.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Janet, and I'm the Association Director for the National Native American HR Association. For those who are visiting us the first time, NAHARA is a tribal led nonprofit organization, and we focus on the HR profession and tribal leadership. We are now in our 28th years of existence, and we are continuing to advance and advocate for Native American tribes. Um, Joining us with Nahara right now is Barb Griffin. Say hello, Barb. And super excited. We have some awesome Nahara events in 2024. We have new certification programs. We have additional THRP and THRP 2 sessions. And we are excited, and we have not announced this on our website, but y'all are first to hear that we are going to be hosting our 2024 Compensation and Benefits Summit in New York City. And we will be partnering with Mutual of America, and we will be announcing our save the date in the future weeks that follow. We also have a University of Phoenix scholarship application program. And I encourage, if you know anyone that wants to go back to school and get a degree, I'm going to add the link on the chat. While Derek starts, I'll add it on the link so you have that. And please share it if you want to apply for a scholarship with the University of Phoenix. It's a 50,000 scholarship towards a degree. So that's super exciting. Um, we have Derek Talley from GITW Benefits, and he's going to be taking us through the P's of partnership today. He will discuss how a successful partnership between two or more parties have a common goal to accomplish something beneficial for all those who are involved. Understanding these principles can be a game changer. Whether you're working with an employee, staff, or leadership or vendor partner, Derek will demonstrate and how we can bring clarity and success to any of the partnership. The session is being recorded and will be at the Nahara YouTube channel. And if you don't mind, if you can turn your cameras off because we're going to be recording the session. And if you have any comments or any questions, please utilize the chat box. And if you are a THRP certified, Barbara Griffin will be notified on your attendance today, and she will give credits towards your THRP certification. With that being said, I would like to, let's see who we have from the board. We have Dorothy. Hi, Dorothy. Would you like to say a welcome to our attendees today?
Sure. I'm excited to see everybody. Welcome. I'm excited to hear this topic and welcome. Um, and I hope to see everybody at our conference in September. I hope you're signing up for our THRP 1, THRP 2s throughout the next year. And excited to see you all again on the Nahara Trail. So welcome our speaker and great topic. And I'm excited to hear.
Thank you, Dorothy. Well, without further ado, Derek, I am going to be turning it over to you. Thank you.
Awesome. You want me to turn my camera off too, Janet?
You're so funny.
Just wanted to, is that a yes?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. Cool. Well, welcome everybody. If I keep looking to the right, I've got a couple different screens. I'm sure you guys are used to that. But man, I am so pumped and excited to be with you here this morning. Just a quick introduction. My name is Derek Talley, and I work with a group called GITW Benefits. I am the COO and the Vice President of GITW Benefits. And also on the call, I've got a good friend of mine. His name is Nicolls. He is the CEO of GITW Benefits, and I think he's on here just to make sure that I stay in line and that I'm saying everything correct. No, I'm just kidding. He's a great guy. Many of you guys may have met Nick in the past. But I just want to say a special thank you to Janet and the board members of Nahara for giving us an opportunity to come and just to share just a part of our culture inside of GITW. It's been amazing to come to the Nahara conferences. We've attended probably for over a decade, and it's kind of a treat, honestly. Like when we go to the conferences every single year, you get to meet some old friends that you get to see once a year and you talk to throughout the year. But it's a great time to come and just reconnect. And I just want to say this, in talking with Janet and just getting to know her a little bit, she really has a heart, and I would say Janet and the whole board, they have a real heart for you guys. They want to see you succeed in what you're doing, to be able to give you resources. And honestly, I don't think there's another group out there quite like Nahara. And I'm not buttering this group up, but I just think that they're amazing. So. A little bit about GITW Benefits. We've been working inside of the tribal nations and partnering together for over 15 years. It's been an amazing ride. I actually have a construction background myself. And so when coming into benefits, I was like, man, I don't know anything about benefits. And a good friend of mine was already doing it. He said, Derek, you don't have to know a ton. You just have to like to talk to people. And I was like, done, because I love people and I like talking. So let's go. And it's been a pretty incredible ride. With that, let me share my screen and we'll just kind of get into this. Let's see here. Let me make sure I share the correct screen. All right. Already did the welcome and introduction. So let's move to the next slide here. All right. So like we talked about this morning, we are going to be talking about the P's of partnership. Now, I don't know, this is my first time doing one of these, but I'm kind of an interactive guy. And so if you guys want to participate, we do have that group chat that is available. If you have some thoughts that you want to throw out there. But when we talk about the P's of partnership, partnership, I believe, is so important. And it is how we actually run our company. And we're going to take a look and see what that actually looks like. So a partnership, here's the definition, is a relationship between two or more people with a desire to provide or produce something that accomplishes a common goal or that is beneficial to all parties. The idea is a win-win relationship. So obviously we understand that there is a common goal in every single partnership, and because there's two sides of the coins here, that it has to benefit both parties. Obviously, you guys being in human resources, I think you probably have employees that may feel like it's just a one-sided conversation, but a true partnership benefits all parties. Now, there's a lot of P's to partnership. We got production, progress, persistent, purpose, potential, program. Obviously, there are a ton of P's. That persuasive, ooh, that's a good one. Positive, practical, passionate. If I miss any, feel free to put them in the box there. Pressure, ooh, that's a good one. No one likes to talk about the pressure inside a partnership, but it's a real deal. Power, or should we say power struggle? That's not a good one. Push, pull, people, participate, perception. But there's four that we really want to focus on today, which is why we've called it the four P's of partnership. And the first one is people. The second one is purpose. The third one is process. And then the fourth one is progress. So it's really important that we are connecting with our partners. Your partners can be passionate about their goals or their needs. And that's great. We need to embrace it and find a way to help them and yourself. the reality is that you are in a position, we're in the people business, right? At the end of the day, being in human resources, you have to like people, which is kind of crazy to say, to be honest with you, is because I know that there are some uh, HR departments and some human resources managers, and you just wonder like, why are you in the job? Like, you have to deal with people, and maybe you don't like people, but at the end of the day, um, that we are in the people business. Don't allow yourself to get drawn into a power struggle. It's all about the common goals. So find common ground. And I think this really takes some humility on our side. I think many times that we can try and push our agenda or trying to get somebody to see our point of view. But at the end of the day, because we are in the people business, a true partnership really is trying to find that common ground of how it can benefit us, but also how can it benefit and how can we build up somebody else. Now, we're not called to just fix people, right? I think that sometimes we may feel like if an employee were to come in with a burden, that we have to come up with a solution. But many times, just in my own personal life, is that when someone comes to me with a problem, that just letting them talk through it, they actually find the solution. And through that, you can find some common ground. And then remember that perception is a reality. Dig deep and understand your partner's reality inside of the relationship. Now, this is a tough one. And this, I'm going to be honest with you guys, a lot of honesty this morning, okay? This is one that I actually struggle with myself. To when someone shares their perception, I may see it a different way, and you may see it a different way. But having compassion on someone, knowing that their perception is reality, and we can talk about how can we shift their perception a little bit, because at the end of the day, when they grow, then we as an organization grow, which is so important. But I would say I was actually talking with someone yesterday, and I think that perception is 99% of the game of life, of what is your perception on life, and how can we show somebody a different perception. And we could talk about permission to share about a different perspective or a different perception. But we really have to dig deep and understand your partner's reality inside of the relationship. So let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about people. Again, we're inside of the people business. And so we got fellow team members. And I would even want to say employees. They are your partners as well. And they are super important. Why are fellow team members important? And I'm going to talk, but feel free to add it in the chat why you feel like fellow team members are important. From my perspective, fellow team members, that they are helping carry the goal or the vision of the organization forward. That's super important. Why? Because we can't do it on our own, right? Which is why we have employees. And I think that the thing that we really have to do is we have to find um, the gems and the gifts that are inside of people. As you guys know, that employees may come on and they're hired for a specific job, but outside of accomplishing the tasks of their job, that there is a certain skill set, there are gifts, there are gems that are inside of each of your fellow team members, and these can be realized and they could not be realized. I think many times us, as human resources, as leaders, it is our job to help come alongside of people to help them see, understand, and teach them how to use those gifts for the common goal, for the common vision, for the common purpose to continue to move the organization forward. Um, it's interesting when I first got into this position. I was a sales agent for many years and kind of grew into a leadership position to where I am today. And I'll never forget Nick. I was having there was a problem with one of the agents, with one of our agents, and Nick was like, the tough thing about this, Derek, is that sometimes we're just kind of like a glorified babysitter. And I laughed, and I was just like, man, sometimes, being in leadership, you just feel like you're just herding cats. I don't know if you ever feel that way, but there are many times where I'm just like, man, this is kind of tough. But again, it goes back to that we are inside of the people business and that we need to partner together with fellow team members. Supervisors, right? Supervisors are super important. I think at the end of the day, we all have a supervisor, somebody that is over us. That could be good. A great supervisor. I don't know about you guys, but a great supervisor makes your job really easy, very enjoyable. But what happens if you have a supervisor maybe that just rubs you the wrong way? Maybe they're very demanding. Maybe there's a clash in personalities. Um, it's a reality. It is 100% a reality. But at the end of the day, we're called to partner together with our supervisors because our supervisors also have a supervisor. And I think if again that kind of comes back to finding some of that common ground, which is again to continue to move the organization forward, to create a culture that is healthy, that is sustainable. So supervisors are very, very important. And then tribal leadership. Tribal leadership is a big one because at the end of the day, you guys answer to tribal leadership. You have to go to council to give reports, and the reality is that tribal leadership, council, they have to answer to the people. So everybody is answering to someone, but at the end of the day, we are all partners. And then the last one is vendors, and obviously, I'm a vendor. They can either make you look good or they can make you look bad. I've heard so many horror stories, and I hope that I've never been a part of a horror story. Not saying that I've never made mistakes, um, but we're just not in it for ourselves, right? That we are in the people business and we're in this thing together. So that's the first P, which is people. The second P, let's talk about purpose. Purpose is so important, and we need to really identify the purpose of partnership. We need to define the agreed upon goals of the partnership. And how we do that, we remember that patience and listening skills are critical to establishing the goals. Patience and listening skills. I don't know, you guys have probably heard this term of active listening. And this is tough stuff. We're really treading through some tough stuff here, guys. Patience, patience and listening. That can be the toughest ever, but it does have a purpose. Active listening is probably one of the most powerful tools I feel in communicating with teams. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be people that walk into your office, and it's probably pretty rare that you get team members that are walking into your office just saying, "Hey, I just want to thank you so much for doing an amazing job. You're such a rock star." Maybe you do get that, and I hope that you do. But probably the majority of the time, you get problems that you have to deal with, and usually it's with people. And active listening is such an amazing tool. And if you don't know what active listening is, where you are sitting and you're not just hearing somebody, but you're actually listening. And then after they're done, you take and you say, so this is what I heard you say. And then you repeat back to them what they said. Now, that's so positive because many times when we are in the heat of the moment, when we're dealing with a conflict or something that's going on, is that we may verbalize what we have internalized, and that could be healthy or it could be unhealthy. So the cool thing about active listening is that when you give somebody feedback and you say, hey, this is what I hear you saying, that they may hear it and be like, wow, did I really say that? Or is that really accurate? And you can ask questions. Did I articulate that correctly? Now, they may back up and say, well, I mean, I didn't mean to say that, or that is what I said. But active listening really builds trust inside of relationships with your team members because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be validated and they want to be heard. People want to be validated and they want to be heard. And I found out it through a lot of hard knocks and a lot of mistakes, to be really honest with you, that just listening and having someone work through their problem, that they probably the majority of the time they come to their own conclusion, and most of the time it's the correct conclusion. Now we may have to add a couple bits and pieces to it, but even in disciplinary actions, I think active listening is very helpful because you can ask somebody, why did you not turn in your timesheets? This seems to be a repeated offense. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Instead of just laying down the hammer and saying, hey, you didn't turn in your timesheet. I need you to get better at this. Again, that's trying to find a solution to the problem so that we can build healthy team members. And inside of that, like the underline says, is that it does take a whole lot of patience. A lot of patience. Be prepared for some push and pull. Um, I think, I don't know if you guys have any team members that are like this, but there are some team members that they don't like to be challenged. What they think and what they speak is the gospel truth, and nobody can tell them otherwise. Do you guys have some of those team members? I I have, well, I've had some of those team members. I've got a great team around me right now, but I've had some team members that think that they're always 100% right. And so when we talk about a push and pull, what that really is, it's being able to challenge a thought or actually have permission to challenge a thought the way that somebody is thinking and perceiving. And again, this kind of goes back to that last side, that perception is a reality. But it's really powerful when you can say, "Hey, listen, can I challenge?" Like when you know that what someone is speaking is 100%, it's not true. Instead of just saying that's not true or whatever, that you can say, "Hey, can I challenge that thought?" And what you're doing is you're asking them permission to speak into their life. Now, because you're in some sort of a leadership position, they're probably most of the time going to say, "Sure." And then at that time, you just take a small pause, allow them to collect themselves, and then you can challenge that thought. Now, I've learned that you don't have to, that most people come in and they've got probably a good long laundry list of things that they want to bring to you. Or maybe you've got the long laundry list, right? And this could be problems with other coworkers, whatever it may be. Um, but they've got a pretty long laundry list. I would say just take a couple of those things and address those things. I know that it would be nice to be able to just slug it out and be like, hey, listen, we're going to work through all. And you may find that some people would be open to that. But this really comes to just kind of wading through those waters and building your team members up. Because again, you have a purpose, they have a purpose. But inside of challenging those thoughts, there is a little bit of push and pull. And this actually can be healthy if it's done correctly. Again, you're getting their perspective and they're getting your perspective. Perspective is another one, obviously, inside a partnership is understanding perspective. But be prepared for a little bit of push and pull. And I would even say that there's probably some team members that you have where you almost are like wanting them to push back a little bit. I've had folks that I've worked with, and they have, they just kind of take it with a blank face. You're trying to help them grow, whether it's a disciplinary action or maybe you're collaborating with your team, and they're the person that just doesn't say anything. This is where you can kind of, and it takes some skill to draw it out of them. But the push and pull is actually very healthy. And then we offer practical ideas and avoid rabbit trails. You do have those folks that just want to just run off on every single tangent. Um, and again, this goes back to the patient part. And I think that it is completely appropriate to say, hey, can we get back to the focus of this conversation, which is X, Y, and Z. So don't let them get off on those rabbit trails. And then the last one, which is practical, is identify the period of time involved. And so if you have team members that you're coming to, or maybe they're coming to you, put a time period on it. It is completely appropriate. And I think that inside of being a healthy leader is that as we lead, that we do have to put time periods on change, on growth, because all those things are measurable, right? And I think that it's appropriate to come back around, whether it's 2 days later or if it's a week later, for using the instance of the time card, to go back to that person in another 2 weeks and to make sure that they're getting their time card in on time, whatever it is that you're doing. But I would say make sure that you put in a time period. The next one is process or process, depending on what part of the country that you're in. Process. So let's talk a little bit about process as it concerns to partnership. So we have identify the potential of each partner and use their gifts and their talents properly. Again, we spoke to that a little bit earlier, but there is potential inside of every single human being. There's gifts, there's talents inside of every single human being. It takes a good leader to be able to see that inside of folks and not to see the things that they don't do. I think that as humans, many times we have a natural bend to see the inadequacies, to see the failures around the folks around us. I keep saying folks and y'all. I'm from Montana. Okay, you have to give me a break. And seeing the people, that's the official way to say it, team members, and seeing people around you. It really does take a special ability to be able to see the gold that is inside of everybody. I had a leader one time that that told us that people are jewels and they are not tools. And I know that may challenge some of your mindsets because you may say, but this person was hired to do a job. 100%. They were hired to do a job. They have to meet certain criteria, that there are expectations of that employee. I totally get that. And we have to uphold that because that's what they were hired for. But I think the perspective change is when you look at people, you realize that they are jewels and that they're not just tools. Will they continue to carry the mission and the vision of the company forward? I hope so, which is why they have talents and why they are hired for a job. But we want to make sure that when we look at people, that we see them as a gift, right? That's tough, that they are a gift to the organization. And I think that when we change our perspective and we see that many times we are minors, we have to dig out the gifts inside of people, the talents, knowing that they're there, but that they may not realize that they're there, or maybe they realize that they're there, but they want to sharpen those gifts and they want to grow in those gifts. And I think probably one of the toughest part about being in leadership are encountering people that don't want to grow, right? They just kind of want to just coast. They want to take it easy. Um, and that might be a separate conversation. But there are some of those people. So I'm saying is that I know that it's not easy to see the gifts and see the talents inside of somebody. But when we do that, it actually helps change our language towards our team members, that we may not be so harsh and critical, which in the end creates a healthy work environment. Second part there is to participate in the process as agreed. Okay, so that's important. You're in leadership, and sometimes there are tasks and things that our team members or employees that they have to change. But many times that you're actually a participant inside of that growth, that you are a participant inside of the process. And again, that really goes back to of mining the gifts and putting a time limit on it, but you're a participant as well. Stay positive and laser focused. So this is actually easy at the beginning, hard if things aren't moving in the direction that you want them to, or if they're not moving in the time that you want them to. But I just want to encourage you guys to stay positive and don't take your eye off of the goal for the organization or for your team members, because at the end of the day, we need to continue to move the organization forward. Be proactive to adjust the process as needed and stay flexible. So the whole part about coming back, putting a time on, whether it's a goal or a process, whatever that is that we can take and we can measure their progress. And if they aren't meeting your standards, then we need to come back and have another conversation. And we can say, hey, listen, it looks like we haven't actually met our goals. I haven't seen the process, or I haven't seen the progress. I haven't seen that quite like we had talked about. And so I want to know what's going on. I'd like to get your feedback because you may need to adjust that process a little bit, but be proactive about it. Just knowing, I think that sometimes in leadership, we're just like, we just rubber stamp things and we're just like, this is the plan, this is the rubber stamp, either meet it or you're out. And I would just encourage you, be a little bit more pliable and even in your mind as you're sitting down, with some of your team members, is to inside of your mind almost you don't want to come up with a plan B, but sometimes you have to come up with a plan B. And it's a lot easier to kind of come up with plan B from the beginning than to be on your heels if those employees didn't meet your expectations. Now, I will say this. Sometimes there are non-negotiables, okay? Like if there's a sexual harassment case, that isn't like, hey, how come, like there's no leniency on some policies. And so I do want to say that I completely understand that there are times that there is hard lines that you have to draw, and it is second offense, you're out of here. And it's just one and done. And so I do get that. So I'm not trying to change your policy at all, and I do understand that there's some hard, fast rules on some things. And then be persistent, but not overly persuasive. The persistency is important. Why is the persistency important? Because we want people to change, right? We want our partners to change. And by them changing, many times we change ourselves, and that's why we have partners. So we have to be persistent, but not overly persuasive, because you can be overly persuasive, and especially when you were to sell an idea to somebody and they don't have any skin in the games, and they're not a part of the equation. And again, I realize sometimes that they can't be, but if you can get some buy-in from your team members, you'll actually see that that goes a whole lot farther. Okay. Next one is progress. Progress is a big one. We establish ways to measure production and performance. Okay. Establish ways to measure production and performance. And this can be different all the way across the board. Many times it does have to deal with goals and direction, and maybe jotting some of those goals down. And I would say don't just keep it for yourself, but also give it to your employees, and we can measure that stuff. We need to build programs and tools to gauge progress. And again, that kind of goes back to maybe writing some stuff down. Define the desired performance expectations. As a team leader, it is super important for us to clearly define the expectations of our employees or of all of our partners. Again, we went through that we have quite a few different partners, and the four we listed, there's a lot more than just the four. But expectations are a really big thing, and it's actually very healthy. And I'll even say this is that as far as expectations go, that those need to be visited, not just when somebody's in trouble, but it should be visited throughout the year, throughout the relationship, so people understand what their expectations are. Obviously, you guys being in leadership, you have expectations of yourself, but I think that many times in leadership that we may say something once, and we just expect everybody to retain every bit of information and every expectation that we have of them. And when they don't meet up to that expectations, or when they fall short of that expectation, we're really quick to come back and be like, do you remember when you got hired 20 years ago? This was been the process. Hopefully, obviously, I'm being overly dramatic. But there are times that in leadership that we can just think that everybody remembers our expectations for that partnership, and sometimes we don't. But when we do come across a bump in the road, or if there is a problem, obviously this is a great way to come back. And I would say not just to explain the expectation, but actually explain the purpose of the expectation. I got 4 kids, and when I grew up, story time. Story time. When I grew up, my folks, if it was a no, I would ask why, and they were just like, because I said so. And that drove me crazy. When I became a dad, I was like, I am going to explain why, because it always drove me crazy. Because if I knew the why behind the no or whatever, then I would just I could go with that. And maybe it's a personality trait. Some of you guys may be like, no, I'm totally cool with the no. I just need to yes or no. I don't need to know a reason why. And sometimes we don't have the ability or the time to explain why it's a no or why it's a yes or whatever. But I think that defining those expectations and the why behind it is very powerful, because at the end of the day, us as leaders, um, when we have a partner and we have a relationship, we want that to be healthy. But when we create healthy team members and we create healthy partnerships, what we're doing is we're modeling what's good. And what's going to happen is that will reproduce itself in other team members. Okay? It's super important for us to be able to do that. And it's great. It's amazing when you have a healthy partnership between your employees or whoever, and then you see that begin to take off like a wildfire. And what it does, it really does, you're cultivating the culture of the organization in a positive way. And you don't have to do all of the all of the heavy lifting. Okay. And then the last one is measure production along the way. We talked about that. And then track the period of time for each step. Okay. Next, a final note. And then we'll come into some questions. So get your questions ready. Oh, Oh, I already have questions. I wasn't even looking at my chat. Oh gosh, sorry guys. Christina, how do you keep on the tasks and expectations even when you let them know you are stopping by on a certain day? Everyone dreads HR's coming to see them. Man, I can't, Christina. I 100% agree with you. There are many times when I call my agents, and the first thing that they say is, "Am I in trouble?" Or they used to say that, "Am I in trouble?" And that's probably mostly due to the fact that there's been a pattern that's been established inside of my phone calls that the majority of the time that when I am calling is that I'm calling because we need to correct something. And so what I've learned to do is to be able to call people and just check in and just see how they're doing. It could be it could be personal, it could be work related, it could be whatever. But what I've learned to do is to connect with them outside of expectations. And then what happens is you and it's not easy. It actually takes a good amount of time to be able to do that. Um, but when I do have a problem or we do need to meet expectations or they are failing, um, they don't dread it as much. And so I hope that answers your question. I do understand that being in leadership that it is tough, but I would say just connecting with them more on a personal level. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, type in the text box there, and then I'll answer that question. Nick, are you raising your hand? Have I not seen that this whole entire time?
That's good. Can you hear me, Derek?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Derek, yeah, Christina brings up a great question, and that does go back to the first few topics you talked about, which is the partnership is being built over time.
Yeah.
So you've already established those goals with whether it be an employee, a fellow worker, a supervisor, and even people at the tribal council that you may be meeting with, that you understand that whatever your goals are, they're common. So if you do have somebody that comes back later and says, I just couldn't get it done, or I didn't accomplish the goal, well, there should have already been a conversation on how they or you were going to perform along the way. So partnership is that back and forth. It starts early, and it's a process that keeps moving forward. So
Yeah.
I always tell people that when we do end of the year performance evaluations, and we do that with GITW, just like anybody else does. Derek's preparing for all of our 20 some agents and employees to sit down with everybody. We'll be doing that. And as we do it, it's like my conversation, our conversations usually, we've already talked about this,
Yeah.
because we have, and we've made it away. So Christina, I think that is probably the one thing that really helps me is to be able to tell them we've had this discussion. Now, how can we change the outcome? How can we bring the performance back into line to remember what we agreed upon? And that's what it is all about at the beginning. Is we all sat down and made some agreements. And as partners, that's what it's all about. And then whether, like Jared said, whether it's the people, the leadership, your vendors, it's like, well, what did we agree to? Okay, and then evaluating that, which I know Eric's getting into as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for being, Christina, for just asking the question. I think that it probably resonates with a lot of you guys. Just like we have people, it's like almost like you turn on the light and everybody scatters. Not saying that our employees are cockroaches, but um, and Janet, you made a really great point there that trust is important. It is very important, and I'll say this, and it's something that we all know. Trust is hard. It's really hard to build, but it's really easy to lose. Trust is really easy to lose, and it's tough to repair. And so we want to be able to build that trust inside of our partners. All right. Final note, we need to practice peacemaking. Practice peacemaking. Peacemaking, we're actually certified in a course on peacemaking us at GITW. It's something that we use in our everyday lives. It's helped me out quite a bit. And the basis of peacemaking is this, is that there is tension inside of relationships. At the end of the day, there is tension. Now, I know that most of us, well, I don't know, we might have some fighters on here, but for the most part, most people aren't, they don't like tension, they don't like conflict. If you're in a position of human resources, then you realize that conflict is just a part of life. And I'll say this, that there is actually something called healthy tension. And when tension is used correctly, we could actually use it to build. And it is to build. Tension is to build. It is not to tear down. And if we practice peacemaking principles, then we actually build people up. So this is a very quick, again, then we could do a whole nother, we could do lots of, we could do lots of these. This is fun stuff. I hope you guys are getting some good stuff out of this. But practice peacemaking. So the first point here is to go to a higher ground. Inside a partnership, and I'll say this, is that if you learn to serve others, you will serve yourself. It is interesting, this whole idea of serving. It's really kind of backwards the way that it works. But I've learned in my life that it's me last. It honestly is me last, and it's more about people that are around me. It's about building others up. And so I'll say that inside of peacemaking, it really is going to the higher ground. You see your partnership as an opportunity to grow and to serve others. And in doing so, you actually grow yourself. And I know that this stuff isn't easy, especially if you have an employee that you go to or that comes to you, that maybe you're addressing a situation and they want to bring you into the mix, or maybe they want to bring your personal life into the mix. I know that inside of the tribal communities that they're smaller, and you, or bring up something about your cousin or your aunt. Just don't make it about that. You will have to practice going to higher ground, and you want to see that partnership as an opportunity, for growth. But we grow by serving others, and then we need to get real about ourselves. Take the responsibilities of your own actions and your own decisions. And I think this is important because we live in a day and an age where there are people that play the victim card. Y'all know what I'm talking about, where they are always the victim, and everything is everyone else's fault. And I think that it is real important for us to just identify those, identify the actions, the decisions that got them there, but also we have to get real with us too, and realize that if there is a conflict between myself and someone else, obviously I don't want to play the victim, and sometimes it takes being real and maybe even allowing someone else to speak, whether it be a hurt or an offense or whatever, because at the end of the day, we all work pretty close with each other. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to work with somebody that I have conflict with, tension with. And I'll say this: it's okay to go there with other people. Um, and this could be friendships too. The whole peacemaking thing goes far outside of just work. Um, but I would say yeah, I'll just leave that one there. Gently engage others. This is the tough part, because sometimes as leaders, we just take the bull by the horns and we're like, we need to shake them so that they can see what they're doing and how they're doing it wrong, and that we have the answer to make it all right. No, you're going to destroy somebody. Trust me, I've made that mistake of of really tearing people down, and it's because I didn't gently engage other people. Gently, that's the key word there. Gently engage other people. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to be a mouse, and I don't want you to like, the goal isn't to be like, well, I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to make Nick mad. No, we could be honest with our feelings, but then we also have to follow through. And so I would say the gently piece does not mean soft. It doesn't mean you're a pushover, but just being able to ease into it instead of just bulldozing somebody. Come up with that list of 15 things that they've done wrong. And the last thing is this: get together on lasting solutions. Be genuine about the desired future growth of the partnership. I don't know about you guys, but I want lasting partnerships. Um, it is tough. You get new people coming in, and then you get people trained, or you get really great partners, and then that partner like moves along. The worst. They've got this thing called quiet quitting now, which I'm sure maybe you guys are in the HR business. You probably know that a whole lot better than me. But it is far greater for an employee to come with a grievance and for you to work through that than for them to just quit. And so when someone comes to you with a situation or a problem, I think our first response should be thank you. The fact that they trust you enough to bring a problem to you, I think, is a gift in itself. Now, it may be super hard to hear. It may be super hard to understand, like where they're coming from. But I will say this. Hey, Bill. I'm on a Zoom. I'm on a call. Okay, thanks, Bill. Sorry, guys. Um, so tell the employee, thank you so much. Trust them, or that they've trusted you enough to be able to bring this problem to you. Because at the end of the day, we want lasting partnerships. We want future growth of the partnerships. Don't be afraid to address the elephant in the room, whatever that might be. Because at the end of the day, when you can grow with somebody, not just you grow, they grow, but when you grow together, it's actually a very, very beautiful thing. Okay. The last thing is this. That was kind of it for that. And then I just wanted to share who is GITW Benefits, and how did we get here? Like I said, we've worked with over 85 sovereign nations over the last 15 years, specializing inside of the travel marketplace. We work with federal voluntary benefits that are available to travel government employees, and we partner with employers. And so when we talk about partnership, we live and we breathe this thing, because there's a lot of people that just come and go, and we want to build lasting relationships. And we do that through benefit education. We don't replace any existing coverages. And this isn't a sales pitch. I just wanted you guys to know who we are, how the heck we even got here, because we specialize in. And so when I say, like, I get it, I mean, I don't fully get it. I'm not in your shoes. I don't know what you go through, but I've seen a lot of stuff in the last decade that I've worked with GITW Benefits inside of the sovereign nations. I've seen some of the stuff that you guys go through, HR departments, and I'll say this: I think hands down, and I'm not saying this to puff you up, but I think hands down, the human resources department is the most overworked, underpaid, and understaffed department of almost every single tribe that we work with. And you guys put up with so much. You've got things coming down from tribal council. You got people with complaints coming from up above, employees. You guys are stretched so entirely thin, and it's tough. But I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing it, because you helped the organization move forward, and I know that you changed lives. So with that being said, Janet, that is all that I got for this time. If you guys had questions, then feel free to put them in the chat box. However you guys want to do that. And a special shout out to Shailene. This is your first. Congratulations. Hey, me too, Shailene. This is both of our first. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me stop the presentation here. So.
Eric, thank you so much. I added if you have any questions, you can add and Shailene's mic isn't working right now. She said, Derek.
Oh, okay.
And for anyone else, if you have any comments or any challenges you wanted to bring up or any experiences that you have that you wanted to share with us, please utilize it in your chat box. I really, Derek, you were very inspiring.
Oh,
It
thank
was
you.
very inspiring, and I agree with you. I think, HR departments, you said it well. We're not only dealing with our own team and the day-to-days with our own staff, but we're really working with the organization and really helping them to find the purpose and working, partnering with them as well.
Yeah,
So it can you put your email on the chat box?
sure.
Um, so if you would like a presentation, I would encourage you, of course, you can email me, but I would encourage you to email Derek. Do you mind adding your email in the chat box, Derek?
Absolutely. I'll do it right now.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Derek, I really appreciate you, and I'm sure everyone really appreciates today's presentation. Um, Very insightful, inspiring, and once again, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. It was, and thank you for having me. This is fun stuff. It's a little tougher when it's just one sided. Usually, I'm used to faces, but I totally get it. And this has been fun, Janet. So hopefully that we can come back and maybe do another one sometime for you guys.
Absolutely. And for everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great day, and we'll see you in our next coffee. Have a great day, everyone. Take
See you
care.
guys.